welcome. We're thrilled to be here with you today. I'm Eileen Brewer, along with my colleague Paula Anser. Between the two of us, we've spent decades helping the DoD and tech innovators turn big ideas into real-world solutions.
This video series is designed to help you move your research to the warfighter faster. We call it Scientifically Sound, Mission Relevant, and Transition Ready.
Each video tackles a critical step in that journey. The first video focused on posters, how to make them powerful tools for communicating your research impact.
Then we moved into communication skills to provide tips on how to pitch your poster.
And now we'll walk through transition pathways.
Did you know Congress requires federal labs, including Navy warfare centers, not just to invent, but to transfer those inventions to industry and the fleet? This mandate, created by laws like Stevenson-Weidler and the Federal Technology Transfer Act, is why Navy researchers file patents and use CRADAs to move ideas from lab to marketplace and into the hands of warfighters. We encourage you to support your lab's Office of Research and Technology Applications, also known as ORTA, in finding ways to transition your technology.
Participation in transition for researchers doesn't mean every scientist must turn into a program manager or business developer, but researchers are expected to do the following: frame their work in terms of Navy mission relevance. For example, how does this improve undersea detection, increase survivability, or reduce life cycle costs?
Engage with stakeholders, such as program managers, acquisition officers, fleet reps, and sometimes industry partners.
Support tech transfer mechanisms like CRADAs, licensing, test service agreements, and cyber partnerships.
Communicate at multiple levels, not just with technical peers, but also admirals, program sponsors, and potential industry adopters.
The Navy invests heavily in research and development, but too often promising ideas get stuck in what's called the valley of death, the gap between early research and practical adoption. As researchers, you play a key role in helping bridge that valley of death. Even if you're not the one building a final product, the way you frame, communicate, and connect your work can help move it forward.
There is a term used in the startup ecosystem called fail fast. This is the ability to recognize when an idea is not going to advance and needs to either be stopped or pivoted. Look at the Navy's critical needs list, and if you cannot find alignment, then seriously consider pivoting. Find a critical need that you feel you could pivot toward and talk to your leadership about modifying your research for alignment.
Research without transition is a missed opportunity and a potential waste of funds. Warfare centers with a track record of successful transitions are more competitive for future funding.
Before we go deeper into transition pathways, let's clarify something that often gets blurred: technology readiness levels, or TRLs, and the 6-dot federal budget categories. They're related, but not the same.
TRLs are a 9-point scale. TRL 1 is the very beginning, observing basic principles, and TRL 9 is a fully operational system proven in the field. It's a way to describe how mature a technology is.
By contrast, 6.1 through 6.4 are federal budget lines, categories in the Department of Defense research budget that describes how different stages of research are funded. 6.5 and beyond are not typically associated with warfare center labs.
The overlap is real, but they don't map one-to-one. You could have a 6.2 project that's pushing into TRL 4 or a 6.3 effort that's still at TRL 3. That's why it helps to think in both terms: where your budget funding line is and where your technology sits on the TRL scale.
Take a moment now to write down what your current funding line is, and separately, what TRL best describes your project today. Are they aligned, or is there some distance between them? This is to help you focus on the appropriate pathways for your transition.
Here are a few common transition pathways researchers might pursue. You may create knowledge products like publications, models, or simulations.
Building prototypes or having components tested by other Navy warfare centers and labs.
Collaborations with defense contractors for system integration.
Partnerships with universities to extend the research.
Licensing to startups for potential dual use applications. The Navy has a network of tech bridges across the country that can help you find startups and universities relevant to your research.
The right pathway depends on your work's maturity and where it fits into Navy priorities.
So let's look at a good starting point. Every federal lab, including Navy warfare centers, is required by law to have an Office of Research and Technology Applications, the ORTA. ORTAs are the bridge between the lab and the outside world when it comes to technology transfer.
They handle CRADAs, patents, licensing, and partnerships with industry and academia. ORTAs can connect you to the tech bridge in your region to help with connecting to startups. So let's talk about CRADAs. Cooperative Research and Development Agreements allow you to collaborate with outside organizations while protecting both sides' interests. A CRADA is a written agreement between a federal laboratory and one or more non-federal parties. It enables collaborative R&D projects that leverage both parties' expertise, facilities, and resources without transferring appropriated funds from the government to the partner.
Your ORTA is your ally. They protect your inventions with patents, connect your research to industry with licenses, and ensure you and the Navy get credit and potential royalties. The most important rule, talk to your ORTA early before you publish or present, so your work has the best chance of becoming a protected and impactful Navy innovation. Just to be sure you heard that last bit, if you think your work is patentable, talk to your ORTA before publishing in a journal, presenting at a conference, or putting it on a poster. Public disclosure can make your technology or invention unpatentable.
Let's talk about how to engage with your ORTA.
Spot potential inventions early. Ask yourself, could this be useful outside the lab?
Submit an invention disclosure before publishing or presenting.
Stay engaged during the patent review process. Answer ORTA questions and clarify technical points.
Be willing to brief potential licensees. Industry often wants to hear directly from inventors.
Ask ORTA about CRADAs or licensing opportunities. They may already be talking with partners who need your expertise.
The Small Business Innovation Research Program, known as SBIR or SBIR, and the Small Business Tech Transfer Program, known as STTR or SITR, are congressionally mandated programs. The Navy invests roughly $300 million annually across PEOs and warfare centers. The goal is to bridge the valley of death, to turn ideas and research into deployable naval capabilities.
What's the difference between SBIR and SITR? In the SBIR program, a small business does at least 2/3 of the work, and a government lab or university may be a subcontractor. In contrast, in the SITR program, there is a mandatory formal collaboration between a small business and a research institution, and Navy labs can be that research institution.
Let's talk about the different phases in TRL progression. Phase 1 is usually for a period of 6 months and up to $150,000 to show feasibility, so around TRL 2 to 3.
Phase 2 is usually for about 2 years and up to 1.2 million, generally for prototype development, bringing you to TRL 4 to 6.
What's called Phase 3 doesn't have any SBIR funds, but has funds from a customer. So this phase is a transition to a program of record or direct acquisition, so TRL 6 to 9.
You can participate in these programs in a few ways. You can influence topics. Warfare centers submit topic ideas to O&R Sitter office. If you see a gap in your research area, you can propose a topic.
Now let's look at programs of record and requirements. Step 1, start with the requirements. Why first? Requirements define the Navy's problems to solve. They're the demand signal from the fleet. If your research can't tie to a requirement, either an existing one or an emerging one, it risks being a solution in search of a problem. At the Warfare Center level, this usually means listening to your technical director or division head when they talk about fleet priorities. Ask yourself, which requirement does my work connect to?
Step 2, look for programs of record. Why second? Once you know which requirement your research addresses, you can identify whether there's already a program of record working in that space. A POR is a pathway to adoption at scale, the engine that can pull your technology through if it's relevant and mature. At this stage, the question is there an acquisition program that might be able to take my work and run with it?
Step 3, position your research. With both a requirement and the program of record in mind, you can now frame your research more effectively.
Let's go a bit further on this topic around framing your research more effectively to give you some talking points. When talking to a requirements sponsor, an OpNav staff member or resource sponsor, for example, the goal is to show alignment with the fleet problem. Here's a script example. I understand that one of your top priorities is, and then insert the requirement that you match to. My research is focused on developing a capability that could directly support that need by, and then insert how you help. Could we talk about how this maps to your requirement set? The key tips here are to speak in mission outcomes, not technical details, and to use their language, for example, readiness, survivability, or deterrence.
When talking to a program office, the PEO or PM, for example, the goal is to show how your work could transition into their program. Here's a script example. Your program is responsible for, and then put in the name of the system or capability. Our team has been working on a technology that reduces, put in cost, risk, time, and improves, put in your performance metric. I think it could lower your development risk if it is inserted in your next upgrade cycle. Who on your team should I connect with to explore this fit? The key tips are to speak in terms of risk, cost, and schedule, their priorities, and to offer data, not theory.
When talking about your research inside the lab to peers or leadership, your goal is to frame your work as connected to both the requirements and transition pathways. Here's a script example. Our research tackles the requirement of list the fleet problem, and we see potential for transition through mention a specific program of record. We're working now to validate results at higher TRLs so that the program office can adopt it. The key tips are to always tie why it matters, which was the requirement, to how it could move, which was the POR. This shows you're aware of the bigger picture beyond the lab bench.
We've talked about TRLs, budget lines, partnerships, and programs of record. Now let's put it all together. One tool that can help you think through your own project is one that was developed by FedTech called the Technology Transition Canvas.
This canvas was adapted from the Lean Canvas model, which is used by startups to help them develop and launch their products faster.
Think of it as a bridge between the scientific and the strategic. By filling in the Canvas template, you'll see more clearly who your partner should be, what kind of funding or agreements you'll need, and how to communicate your research's value to different audiences.
Think of the bottom half as your foundation, the seeds you already have. The top half represents the customer needs you want to meet. Our job is to align seeds with needs. We're going to provide prompts now for each box, and those prompts will be available on some of the following slides for you to grab through screenshots.
Let's start in the bottom left corner. For functions and value drivers, ask, what core functions does my technology perform? What value does it inherently create?
For technology advantages, ask, why is our technology better or faster or cheaper or more reliable?
For current alternatives, ask, what solutions are being used today instead of our idea?
For go-to-market, ask, who do we envision will be the partner or entity that brings our research to market?
For capital required, ask, what resources or funding are needed to become a viable product?
And for value capture, ask, how will our research further the mission?
Now let's transition from the lower seed section to the upper needs section, starting with the right side. For the customer segments, ask, who are the priority users or buyers?
For jobs to be done, ask, what tasks are end users trying to accomplish?
For pains, ask, what frustrations, risks, or obstacles do they face?
For gains, ask, what benefits or improvements do they want to see?
For channels, ask, how will we reach and communicate with them?
For pain eliminators and gain creators, ask, how does our technology specifically relieve pain or create gain?
For value creation, ask, when our tech meets their needs, what unique value is generated?
Now let's move to the upper left section where we focus on collaborations. For collaborator segments, ask, who are our potential partners, suppliers, or resource allies?
For resources, ask, what assets, such as intellectual property, labs, networks, support the effort?
For motivation and activities, ask, why are we pursuing this and what key activities must we do?
For relationships, ask, how will we maintain trust and engagement with collaborators?
Now that both seeds and needs are mapped, look at the center circle, your value proposition. This is the concise statement of how your technology solves a real problem or addresses a critical need.
Take some time to think about how this compares with the bluff on your poster from video 1 and the pitch formula from video 2. There should be alignment between your bluff and your value proposition.
We have provided the next few slides for you to stop the video and take a screenshot of the slides so that you have the prompts that we just ran through. This is to help you with completing the template on your own after you finish the video. You can go back to slide 11 to grab a screenshot of the template or create your own.
This screenshot is for the upper right section of the template.
This is a continuation of the same upper right section.
These prompts are for the upper left section.
Use your poster bluff bottom line up front and pitch template to find your value proposition.
Armed with your transition canvas, you now have multiple talking points for your next poster session. If you haven't already viewed the first 2 videos in this series on designing your poster and verbally communicating the impact of your research, now is a good time to do that. In fact, you may want to re-watch all of the videos in any order you like. Throughout this series, we've emphasized a core point. Transition isn't just about the science, it's about relationships and communication.
Remember, when you're speaking with Navy leadership, whether it's an admiral, a program officer, a resource sponsor, or a senior acquisition manager, they are listening for how your research connects to their mission and priorities. POs are listening for improvements to risk, cost, and schedule. Admirals are listening for impact on readiness, survivability, and deterrence.
That's why we recommend going back to your poster introduction pitch and rewriting the last sentence several different ways. Tailor it for each type of audience you may meet, an admiral, a program manager, or a contractor partner. You already know the keywords to use, and you now have a transition canvas to make those links visible.
Your fellow researchers matter too. They can be collaborators or provide introductions for transition opportunities. But it is the Navy leadership, the people who make resource and program decisions, who will ultimately determine whether your work gets transitioned. It's your job to make sure they know who you are and what you're working on.
That's the reason we've titled the series Scientifically Sound, Mission Relevant, Transition Ready. Because your research isn't finished when the science is proven. It's finished when it makes a difference for the Navy and the nation.
Before we leave you, we've gathered all of the links we have provided throughout this video here for you to capture if you like.
This series of videos has provided you with the information you need to move your research to the warfighter faster.
And just like before, if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to contact us.